Welcome to our weekly wrap-up of the Oscar Pistorius murder trial. Testimony in the North Gauteng High Court dealt with some key issues of the case. The autopsy report of Riva Steenkamp was introduced, as was the cricket bat Pistorius used to break down the toilet door after she was killed. In contrast to last week, activity outside the court was more subdued. Oscar Pistorius cut a lonely figure as he arrived at the Pretoria court. For the first time since the trial started, he wasn't mobbed by reporters and bystanders. He even had time to answer a call and greet members of his defence team before entering the court building. On Monday, Judge Dogozile Masipa ruled that the autopsy evidence could not be covered live and in detail by the media. Pathology Professor Gert Simon asked the court to restrict media coverage. He argued that he's bound by the Health Professions Act not to reveal personal information or graphic statements to the public.
My lady, I am a healthcare practitioner, a medical doctor, and as such I am bound by certain ethical rules that guide my profession, and in fact there may even be statutory limitations in terms of my conduct when it comes to some of these issues in terms of the Health Professions Act. So it is on that basis that I chose at the outset to indicate to the court that I would not be comfortable in the live or contemporaneous streaming of my evidence due to the very nature thereof. I believe that there are fundamentally three good reasons, if I can call it that, why this should not happen. In other words, that there be live, unfiltered streaming, so to speak. Number one, I think that the very personal nature of findings that are made at an autopsy examination, as well as the very graphic details pertaining to some of the injuries and wounds which may be described, have the potential to compromise the dignity of the deceased. And although she may not have rights in the technical sense, I believe that it is my duty and our duty to protect or to preserve the dignity of the deceased as well. Number two, I believe that by such public and contemporaneous streaming of information of this nature, it is almost inevitable that we will impinge upon or harm the rights of remaining relatives and friends of the deceased. And number three, I think that it goes against the good morals of society for us to make information of this nature available in a manner where vulnerable or unsuspecting people out there, so to speak, may be exposed to information in a manner which could do harm. I speak of children, I speak of any person who may be vulnerable to this kind of information if they were not timelessly warned thereof. And so I think in time such information could and probably would be made available, but then hopefully it would have been filtered or paraphrased to some extent, and people would be given the opportunity to disengage or not to listen thereto if they so choose.
Well, our specialist reporter Karen Maughan was in court when this crucial evidence was presented. Oscar Pistorius retched a number of times as the graphic details of Riva's fatal injuries were revealed.
An ashen Oscar Pistorius vomited as Dr. Gert Simon described the bullet wound to Riva Steenkamp's head, which he said would have been almost instantly fatal. Steenkamp would have likely only breathed a few times following the injury to her head, he said. Pistorius' lawyers have previously argued that witness evidence of a woman screaming after the last gunshot noise couldn't possibly be true because of the brain damage caused by the bullet wound to Steenkamp's head. Simon's evidence would seem to support that claim, but the state is also very likely to use his testimony about Riva's last meal to undermine Pistorius' claims about the model's final hours. Pistorius claimed in his bail affidavit that she and him went to bed at 10 p.m. But Simon says Steenkamp's stomach contents show she had eaten 2 hours before her death, just after 3 a.m.
Well, I'm now joined by eNCA Larson, who's been closely following court proceedings. The significance of the autopsy report can't be overstated here, eNCA. Just take us through some of the salient points in Gert Saiman's testimony.
Well, this forensic pathologist with over 30 years' experience described the very devastating injuries that were sustained by Reeva Steenkamp. But he described the cause of death as multiple gunshot wounds, and we've counted 17 prima facie, on the face of it, injuries that she sustained from these Ranger bullets. Now, these Ranger bullets are designed to cause as much soft tissue damage as possible. Simon described them as being like a flower with petals that open on soft tissue impact. So it's almost as if Reeva Steenkamp sustained injuries from what was like the ammunition version of a nail bomb.
What do we know about the damage to Steenkamp's body from the bullets?
We know that she had more than 17 injuries which were caused by these Ranger bullets, and that she died a painful death. The injuries on 3 of the main bullet wounds, her head, her hip and her shoulder, severely deformed her, especially her pelvic region, and it's very likely that she could have died from any of those 3 injuries. In fact, unless she'd got immediate surgical help, the chances of her dying would have been 50-50.
This evidence about how long before her death Steenkamp ate, just how important is it?
Well, Joanne, it's very important because Oscar Pistorius said that the couple who were having a loving Valentine's evening went to bed that night at 10 p.m. But Gert Saiman says it's clear to him that judging by the gastric emptying and the contents of Reeva Steenkamp's stomach, she had had a light meal, probably vegetable matter, about 2 hours before she died. So she would have eaten something allegedly about 2 hours before her death. He also said that there was only a very small amount of urine in her bladder, which is also probably indicative of the fact that she did go to the bathroom shortly before she died. So this is going to be some point of contestation for the defense, who claim that their witness, their accused, says that they went to bed at 10 o'clock that night.
That was eNCA Larson with more details on the autopsy report.
Know more about your world.
eNCA.com